Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're tackling something huge. How can short-form video actually, really grow your brand?
Yeah, and we've got some fascinating stuff to look at, mainly from Jenny Hoya's. She's only 18, but she's had, 600 million views on YouTube Shorts in just the last year.
It's pretty incredible. And what I find interesting is it sounds kind of absurd, her claim that she can basically make anything go viral.
Right, just by adding a story and some kind of twist. Especially on platforms where you don't even have to click, the feed just keeps rolling.
Exactly. And for you listening, if you want to get up to speed quickly on this, understand what actually works. This could be a real game changer for your brand's visibility.
Definitely. It's about understanding the mechanics.
Okay, let's dig in. So what makes a short video really grab people? What's the secret sauce there?
Well, Jenny's perspective is really sharp. She says it all starts with a strong hook.
A strong hook, like a title and thumbnail for a longer video.
Kind of, yeah. Think of it that way. It has to be super visual, instantly understandable, even if the sound's off. And simple, like really simple. She says simple enough for a 5-year-old to get the basic idea.
Wow, okay. That makes sense for stopping the scroll. But then what? How do you keep them there?
Story. It's got to have a story that holds them, not just for the first watch, but ideally makes them want to see it again. Rewatchability.
And she mentioned making it personality-based too, right?
Absolutely. She's big on that. The idea is if viewers connect with you, the person, they're way more invested.
Like that example she gave, cooking for strangers.
Yeah, with the broken kitchen, trying to raise money. It's personal. There's irony there. It's relatable. That's the stuff that connects.
So that irony, the unexpected juxtapositions, that's a core part of her engagement strategy.
Seems like it. She really understands how that element of surprise, that twist, cuts through all the noise online.
Okay, so let's say you have an idea. How does she actually craft a hook? What's the process?
It's very visual for her. She often starts just sketching on her iPad.
Sketching, like drawing.
Yeah, like storyboarding almost, looking for that one compelling visual that's going to stop someone mid-scroll.
And then the words that go with it.
Just as important. They have to be concise, obviously, but also incredibly easy to grasp. She actually uses, readability formulas online, aims for 5th grade level or even lower.
5th grade? That sounds really simple.
It's not about dumbing it down, though. It's about maximum clarity. Think about a global audience, different language levels. Simple language just lands better, helps your brand message get through clearly.
She even looked at Mr. Beast's shorts, didn't she? And noticed how basic the language was.
Yeah, sometimes like 1st grade level. It's deliberate. She avoids complex words.
Yeah, so instead of just saying profit,
she'd actually explain what profit means in the context of the video. It makes it accessible to everyone. Crucial for brand reach.
Got it. Okay, hook nailed, language simple. What about keeping people watching? Retention. How critical is that?
Oh, absolutely critical. In shorts, every single second matters. Lose 1 second, and your retention percentage can take a big hit.
And her own numbers are incredibly high, right?
Yeah.
What did she say her average was?
Around a 95.5%.
Yeah.
Which is amazing.
Wow.
And what's interesting is she said her average scroll-through rate, like people who actually watch versus swipe past, is about 85%.
So that gap,
yeah,
that implies people are watching it more than once, looping.
Exactly. That rewatching factor is huge. She thinks you really need that to push retention towards, say, 90% for something to really take off.
90% as a benchmark for virality.
Around there, yeah. And she even mentioned for really short videos, under 30 seconds maybe, you might need over 100% retention.
Meaning people are definitely watching it again, which just reinforces your brand message.
Precisely.
So structure-wise, we've got the hook in that first frame. What comes next?
Right after the hook, usually within the first 3 seconds, she uses what she calls foreshadowing.
Foreshadowing.
Yeah,
in 3 seconds.
Yeah, spoken lines that basically tell you or hint at how the video is going to end. It creates expectation.
Okay, that's clever. How does she keep the pace up after that initial setup?
Smooth transitions are key. You can't lose momentum. She gave that McDonald's example.
Oh, right. McDonald's banned this item hook, so I'm going to make it at home and convince them. Foreshadow.
So I cooked illegally. Transition, see? It just flows, keeps you hooked into the little story, the brand's micro-narrative.
But therefore, storytelling technique she uses.
Yeah, that's about creating intrigue through change. This happened, but then this happened, therefore this is the result. It adds that cause and effect dynamic even in a tiny time frame. Makes things more engaging, more memorable for the brand.
Let's talk about her actual process for creating content. Sounds pretty intense.
It really is. She starts with just like a massive brain dump of ideas. Said she has over 1,000 in a Google Doc.
1,000? How on earth do you filter that?
Well, first filters are just, is she actually interested in it? And crucially, can she realistically do it? Logistics.
Makes sense.
Then she gets tougher. How strong is the hook? What's the mechanism to keep people watching? Does it have rewatch potential? Viral potential?
And she works with an editor on refining.
Yeah, collaboration seems key to hone the best ideas.
Okay, tell me more about this mechanism idea. What does that actually mean?
It's basically something in the video that makes you want to stick around to the end, creates suspense, or answers a question.
Like Mr. Beast's red circle thing?
That's a perfect visual example. Jenny might use something like, I did this in 3 steps, so you wait for all 3. Or building up to a final reveal.
And that final reveal often has a twist, right?
Yeah, she likes setting an expectation and then subverting it, like the Mother's Day gift that, oops, broke.
Huh. Creates a memorable moment. Good for sharing.
Exactly. Boosts the brand's reach. She also optimizes for length, figures out her sweet spot is around 34 seconds based on analytics.
Smart.
And she always knows her last line before filming. That final payoff is planned from the start.
It really sounds like knowing her audience inside out is fundamental.
Oh, totally. She talks about her avatar. She actually pictures specific people, her younger self, her nieces, maybe people who don't have English as a first language.
So she's constantly thinking, how do I make this understandable and interesting for them?
Precisely. It's about broad appeal, but targeted clarity.
Now, this isn't just YouTube Shorts, right? There's TikTok, Instagram Reels. How does she handle the different platforms?
Yeah, she was clear it's not one size fits all. The same video can perform totally differently depending on where she posts it.
Interesting. So what works where?
What she's found generally is YouTube Shorts seems to like a slightly slower pace, a bit more story, maybe a slightly more mature audience, or 34-second videos tend to do well there.
Okay. And TikTok?
TikTok often favors shorter stuff, 10, 20 seconds maybe. Really fast-paced, information-dense, quick cuts.
Gotcha. Instagram Reels.
Reels can be great for really visual content. Subtitles are important there since people often watch muted. And she mentioned high shareability seems key on Insta.
So brands need to think about tailoring the content for each platform's vibe.
Definitely seems like the smart approach. Maximize impact everywhere.
She's had huge success with Shorts. Is she looking towards longer videos now?
Yeah, it's definitely a goal. She wants to apply that same analytical, learn-as-you-go approach to long form. Find a balance between the two.
What's driving that shift, do you think?
Well, a few things. Maybe a feeling she's hit a bit of a ceiling with Shorts growth. Also, just the challenge of a new format.
And maybe a deeper connection.
Potentially, yeah. More time spent with viewers could build more trust. But she's realistic too. She knows her Shorts audience might not all follow her to long form. Different viewing habits.
Right, different needs. Okay, lastly, she mentioned some hunches, things she believes but can't quite prove with data.
Yeah, 2 interesting ones. First, she really feels like shareability is a massive factor in virality, even if it's hard to track directly.
Makes intuitive sense. What was the second?
That retention, while super important, might not be the only thing that matters. Yeah, she's seen videos with slightly lower retention still get huge views. So maybe viewer satisfaction or some other feel-good factor plays a role too.
Fascinating. So it's not just numbers, maybe.
Could be. Still lots to figure out in this space.
Okay, so wrapping this up, it feels like the key takeaway for brands isn't just make short videos. It's way more strategic.
Totally. It's about killer visual hooks, compelling stories with twists, really knowing your audience, adapting for each platform.
And maybe thinking beyond just retention to things like how shareable it is or if people actually enjoyed it.
Exactly. And Jenny's story really highlights just constantly testing, learning from the data, and being willing to tweak your approach.
This has been super insightful. So for you listening, the challenge is, which of these strategies could you try right now for your brand?
Yeah, how could you experiment with a strong visual hook? Or weave in a simple story with a twist?
What's that seemingly absurd idea you have that maybe, just maybe, you could make go viral using some of these principles? Something to think about for your own deep dive.
Yeah.
Thanks for tuning in.